Someone had binoculars.
Yeah, oh, I wouldn't doubt it for a second. Oh my God,
But-
people are nosy.
Welcome to the Big Dane Podcast. I'm your host, Dana Trimborn, and in this podcast, find the connection in the weird experiences that we all share. Listen to new episodes on Tuesdays wherever you get your podcasts. Hey friends, in this week's episode, I'm chatting with Chelsea Coulton. Listen to her weird and interesting neighbor story about a Hatboro-Horsham high school math teacher. Find out what this math teacher was doing that made him plead guilty. Welcome, Chelsea.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you have this really interesting story.
Oh yeah, it's something definitely out of character for where I grew up, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, let's tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, before we get into the nitty and gritty here.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm Chelsea, born and raised in the good old suburbs of Bucks County, Pennsylvania. I went to Penn State University and I graduated with my bachelor's in psychology. I've been working in manufacturing, which is totally related to psychology in every sense of the word, But I love hockey. I'm a big hockey fan. Go Flyers. Not right now, but hopefully in the future. We're having a very painful season. And that sums me up.
Okay.
For the most part.
Well, just to get to know you a little bit more, let's do some fun, weird questions.
Yeah, let's go for it.
What is the funniest name that you could think of for a pet?
So back when I was in high school, I got a pet hamster as a gift, like a dwarf hamster.
Oh, okay.
Super tiny.
A dwarf hamster?
Yeah, and he was all white and came up with the name Coconut von Schmello was his name. Really sophisticated.
Very classy.
Yeah, like classical kind of name, like we're thinking Beethoven in that realm. But yeah, that was probably one of the best names for a pet I've had growing up. And honestly, he lived a pretty long time. We lived like over 3 years, which is actually pretty impressive. Yeah, because they're tiny, you know? So that's actually impressive.
Let's hear the name one more time.
Coconut von Schmello. The von is very important,
Yeah.
Really emphasis on the von.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love that. How do you even think of that?
Honestly, it was kind of a blend. I came up with some of it, and then who gave it to me came up with some of it. So it just kind
smeared it together.
Yeah, it was just a nice blended name.
Solid. All right, so let's get right into the episode. Let's hear about this math teacher. What went on?
Okay, so I did, a little digging. So when this happened, this was right around when I first went away to college, was kind of when this started. So I did hear a lot of this news kind of coming from my neighbors, my mom, people in the neighborhood. But I grew up in just a normal middle class neighborhood. We were kind of off of a side street, so very residential, not a whole lot else around. And this person was the neighbor of one of the kids that I grew up with.
Okay.
So he was a little farther down the street from me, so a little bit out of view,
Right.
just from the direct friends that I had in my neighborhood. So I haven't really seen them or really interacted with them too much. So a lot of this was just based off of other neighbors. But basically, what started this kind of case, which is it's kind of a sad story, but his wife in 2015 committed suicide.
Okay.
Which I think there was like an ambulance or something outside of their house one day, and
Okay.
that was like kind of what sparked a whole bunch of, you know, oh, I heard this, I heard that. So
But you weren't, so 2015, you were already at school.
right, so I had just
right?
started
Okay.
Penn State pretty
Okay.
much. Like I was like finishing up like
Got it.
at Penn State at that point. So like I was home like intermittently.
Right.
Like I wasn't really, you know, there every day like I had been. So yeah, so that was like, I feel like that was kind of like the trigger almost of like what started like the other events that happened.
Yeah.
So I know, like it's like such a sad thing. But basically he worked for the school district. I was in Bucks County, so this is more where I live now.
Okay.
In Montgomery County. So it's kind of a different school district than what I was in growing up. So I didn't really know of him, as far as like in school, but, basically he would have like tons of like he had 2 daughters, and they would bring like tons of their friends over, and they were having like these really big parties. You know, obviously they're all high school age, so they're all underage.
Right.
And he would basically be like the hub for like high school parties pretty much at his house, and like was kind of hosting all of these kids and like giving them alcohol, giving them weed, like, you know, and
Like everything you shouldn't be doing.
well,
as
yeah, because like
parent,
and it was,
you know.
yeah, and it was super weird because like when you have like family parties, and you can tell when somebody's having like a party or something, or a family party, like all the cars line up on the street. That was basically what was happening, is like you would just see like tons of cars
Oh, wow.
on the street, and that was kind of like what,
Like a red flag.
yeah,
like
that was kind of like
going
was
on.
happening kind of regularly too. So yeah, so basically these kids like were, you know, going over, and you know, underage drinking and all that kind of stuff was going on. So it was, I think, like for a year or so that this was going on, like up to like 2016, 2017.
Okay.
Until he was convicted. So I don't really have much on like how he ended up getting like convicted, or how he got arrested, or anything like that. I can only say that maybe it was either like noise complaint, or somebody in the neighborhood might have said something.
Yeah.
It could have been a whole slew of things, 'cause
Right.
it was pretty obvious.
Yeah. Okay, so
yeah.
the timeline is like, okay, so his wife passed 2015.
Yeah.
And then sometime shortly after, it's like, okay, all these, you know, parties and, you know, kids are at his house noticeably through 2017.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and they were saying
Give or
that
take.
like there could be up to like 50 kids.
Oh my God.
Like they were big. Like they
Yeah.
weren't just like, you know, like a few people. No, like they were like big parties, you know, like what you would typically see. Like,
yeah. And it would be like
high
after school, I guess.
yeah, because it was over the summer. So it was over their summer
Oh,
break.
okay.
So that's why it was like kind of regularly.
Okay.
Because, you know, they weren't out of school. So it was like during the summer. I guess I'm not sure when, you know, the incident happened, but it was over that summer of like 2016 that this was kind of mostly going on. And I feel like I have like some type of like memory of definitely driving down the street and seeing just like a ton of cars down there and wondering like, oh, what's going on there? But like you wouldn't really see anybody so much. So like,
Yeah, so
I had no idea.
and with your house being a little bit further away,
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably couldn't really hear anything.
Right. And I
Right.
was always going out the other side of the neighborhood too. Like there were two
Yeah.
ways in and out, so I was always going the other way. So like I didn't pass by it too much.
Did you ever think like, oh, well, maybe I'll go check it, see what's going on? Like, did you ever get like a feeling that something was bad?
I didn't really hear about the whole incident with his wife. I didn't really hear about that until like I was definitely at school when I heard about that, but like we kind of glazed over it. Like my mom would get a lot of information from my neighbor because she was kind of the one that would poke around. So we just kind of let her do that, and then we just take in all the information at that point. But yeah, I honestly had no idea. Yeah. Like I really had no idea because I wasn't really home a lot either. Like I was usually always out, so I wasn't really, at my house too much. So I didn't really notice anything or pick up on anything. So yeah, it was very discreet as far as I was concerned. But I always mind my business too. So
right.
Yeah, I don't really poke and prod around in people's business that much. So basically after that, he got convicted, and I think he pled guilty to it. It got him on like charges endangering the welfare of children, corruption of minors, furnishing liquor to minors, possessing marijuana and drug paraphernalia, distributing small amounts of marijuana. Like they got him on like a good amount of charges, but honestly he kind of like got a slap on the wrist as far as conviction. I think he only got like 5 to 23 months or something like that in prison, and then he was put on a year's probation.
Okay. Yeah.
After that too.
Not that long.
Right. So he wasn't able to have any contact with anybody under the age of 20 as far as his probation goes, and he couldn't have any contact with anybody who was pretty much part of the case. So just, probably any of his daughter's friends or
all the 50 kids.
Yeah, like whoever these people were. Like I honestly have no idea because I don't even know like where. I'm assuming that since they lived in my neighborhood, that they probably went to the same high school that I went to. Yeah. So that could be the accumulation of like, Central Bucks South, Central Bucks or CB West or CB East, or like it could
like a combination.
Yeah, like depending on how far out everybody knows each other, because those are all of the districts that are there. But I went to South, so I'm assuming that they probably went there too. Right. But I didn't know them because I was already in college, so they were clearly younger than I was. And I don't think I would have ever crossed paths with them anyway, because they were pretty well younger than me. So
and no, at least I could think of any like friends of yours that it was their siblings or nothing.
Yeah, no,
like too far.
I think that they would have been just kind of too young. Like I have an older sister, so too young to be hanging out with anybody that age, and she also wasn't really at home after that.
Okay, let's take a quick break. For a limited time only, you'll have free access to my coffee page. No, not actual coffee. This is a place for all exclusive content that won't be on my Instagram or Facebook accounts. Check out sneak peeks, behind the scenes, extra audio clips, and much more. Just have a tap on my link tree, look out for that coffee cup icon, and boom, you'll be on your way.
And yeah, it had to be like probably a good maybe 5-year difference or something between me and them. So yeah, I wouldn't have been able to cross paths with them anyway.
And I feel like a lot of like our siblings, it's not such a gap where there would be someone. Yeah. Or even like a friend. I feel like it'd have to be like a cousin or.
Yeah. And also even the neighbor that lived next to them that I knew growing up, they moved out before this kind of happened too. So there wasn't really anything that like I, could get from them or hear about, anything going on from them because they lived right next door. So I would assume that they would have probably heard something, but I really don't know the family that moved in after them. We didn't really see them that much, so.
Oh my God.
Yeah, some crazy stuff. I would have never thought that, like, something like that would have happened in my neighborhood. And it was kind of sad, too, because he was, like, the reason that he was allowing it and, like, kind of let it get to that point was because they were trying to, like, cope with, like, the loss of their mom. And he was, like, it's making them happy. And I think like it kind of was so he could keep watch of them probably too, like, you know, after something like kind of traumatic like that happens in your own home, like he probably just wanted to
like make them happier.
Yeah, and probably keep a closer eye on them too, so that like,
way.
you know, they're not going somewhere else, or he doesn't
They're
really
here
know
under
what's
my
going on.
roof. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was like kind of sad to read. Like,
it is sad when you think about with a series of events. Like, do you know? And I don't know if any of the articles had said, like, did he say that was, you know, his way of coping, or they were the police and, you know, investigators were kind of like, okay, this is what we learned, this is what we think, and, you know, maybe this is why he did it.
Yeah, he actually did say that he said he was, you know, encouraging it because they were trying to cope with like the, you know, suicide of their mom and his wife. So, so he had to do like mental health and drug and alcohol counseling. So he had to do all of that. And like, I feel like I can like relate to that, where I feel like coping like after traumatic or like something tragic happening is probably one of the hardest things for like humans to like grasp, because like there's just no like straight pathway to it, and you kind of don't really have like, you know, the tools in hand when anything happens, because, you know, it just is so sudden or unexpected that it really is tough for people to find like, you know, something healthy to turn to, and like something that will be constructive rather than destructive. They kind of pull at the first thing that works. So like probably one happened, he saw how happy they were with their friends, then he was like, all right, like let's keep doing this because it makes you guys happy. And that's, you know, what maybe he felt he was missing, like with his wife. You know, it could be a lot of things.
Right.
I don't know, but it just seemed like when I was reading this that was kind of the, I don't think it was malicious at all. I think it was just more of like he didn't know what else to do that could be like an immediate, you know, source
like
of help.
Band-Aid or
exactly.
Yeah, I feel like now hearing the story, it does, it feels a little sad because it doesn't sound like, you know, he wanted to do something, I guess, that felt right, but, you know, maybe, you know, not necessarily was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's also like, okay, well, if you don't have anyone else to lean on, or, you know, it's like, okay, well, I'm the single parent now. I don't know what to do because my partner isn't here anymore with us, you know? So it's like, how do you make those decisions by yourself?
Yeah, exactly. Definitely.
That stinks.
Yeah.
But
very interesting story, but
very interesting.
Yeah,
but,
it is a bit sad.
And I guess, and I'm sure it probably said too, like, no one was like hurt or, you know.
I know that there was probably some, you know, there was some additional things that were tossed, but I don't think that there was ever any proof or validation of it.
All right, so I can't say too much. But
yeah, because I don't want to say anything that wasn't, you know, already out there, because this is all information that's out there already. Yeah. So I wanted to just keep it to the facts of what actually, you know, came about the case. But yeah, unfortunately, he also, I think he got his, like, certificates stripped also, which is a shame because, you know, he has I think it was certificates in math and teacher of psychology as well, which is also crazy. I know. It's
because,
sad.
then it's like, what do you do for work if you can't get a
I'm pretty sure he still lives in the
in
neighborhood too, which is even crazier that he's like still in the neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, still lives in the same house as far as I'm concerned. I was trying to see if, you know, they moved or if any, you know, if anything changed, because they've been in that house for a long time. But it seems like he's still there, and which is, you know, kind of interesting.
I didn't even ask, but I guess, you know, he has to be old enough to have kids. So I guess, do you know, or like approximately, like how old was this?
I
fellow
think
teacher.
he was 51.
Okay.
Yeah, at the time. So this was about 6 years ago.
Okay, so he's like mid-50s.
So yeah, so he's probably pushing 60-ish
Okay.
at this point. But yeah, he was 51 at the time.
Got it. Did your mom like see anything, or like did she have any?
I think the only thing that
Like
I remember
weird-
her saying was just the amount of cars that used to be on the street.
Like, oh, like, you know, that's
Yeah,
strange, there's
like,
all these cars.
My
pretty frequent.
neighbor next to us, like, that was on the left of us, was a little closer to their house, so like they could kind of see a little bit more. But yeah, she just mentioned mostly like about the cars on the street, and then I think it also found out about, you know, the wife and everything like that beforehand. And then I think I was on like the phone with her because I was away at school, so I remember her telling me on the phone,
right,
like about his wife. But I only heard about cars on the street and there being just a lot. But then obviously this whole thing came out, so that was like when I heard a lot more, like what was actually going on. But yeah, I think some other neighbors like definitely had more information than I did, just because I wasn't really home, and also my mom wasn't really like, you know, scoping anything out like everybody else kind of does in the neighborhood, you know, because they got nothing better going on.
Yeah.
Like, what else you doing?
Someone had binoculars.
Yeah, oh, I wouldn't doubt it for a second. Oh my god, you know.
But
people are nosy.
With the whole cars, though, you think, like, maybe you would have been a little bit smarter.
I don't know. I mean, to be honest, if I can say anything to attest to this, we did the same thing when I was in high school. You know, one of my friend's house, shout out to 514 University. You know, we used to be those kids too. Like, my friend's house was kind of like that hub too, where we used to go there and we would party and all that kind of stuff when we were in high school.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, we used to be the same thing. We used to be all the cars lined up on the street, and people definitely, you know.
But no one was anyone home
about
at
it.
the parents, though. No.
I mean, yeah, the parents were home, everything, you know.
Okay, well,
yeah.
we won't, that's all we'll say. So.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, I feel like sometimes you get like two different groups of parents. You get the parents that are like, this will never happen in my house, and then you get the other ones where it's like, well, I would rather them do it here than
100%, yeah.
Somewhere they don't know. So you kind of get that toss up, and, you know, every time, you know, when you're a teenager, you're just like going where the next thing is. You're not really thinking twice about stuff like that, so it can be kind of easy to just go along with things, and, you know, you don't really think about it until obviously later in life, or when you start having kids, or when you know, you kind of start going through that stuff. So yeah, you're kind of blind at that time.
And maybe for him it was just kind of like, oh, whatever kind of situation, because he just wanted, you know, happiness or just something, you know, to lift them up from their mom's passing. So
yeah,
who
definitely
knows? But
yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing the story with us.
Problem. It's a good lesson to learn, you know. Try to, you know,
tone it down. No,
try to develop coping skills. You know, like, and definitely work on yourself, and, you know,
oh, absolutely. And
take the time to really, you know, try to you know, figure your self out first before you kind of go down a path that, you know, you can't really come back from, because that's kind of what happens here.
And it's like, if you do need, you know, professional help, don't be afraid to reach out, you know, for your mental health. Like, it's such a huge thing.
Yeah,
I go to a therapist. Hey.
Yeah, I do too. It's been like
feels
life-changing. Yeah, you know, I wish I would have done it sooner, to be honest.
Same.
Yeah, like, I really wish I would have done it sooner, because I could have saved myself probably a lot of, you know, having to kind of backtrack on life, and done a lot more developing sooner rather than later. But, you know, again, it's never really too late to start the work.
It's true. So don't be afraid. Reach out. But yes, thank you for the story. It was very interesting to learn about. And I'm wondering if any of the listeners have any similar stories, or, you know, you were able to find connection with this story, with this weird, interesting neighbor.
Yeah. I feel like it's not really that uncommon, to be honest.
I know, it's probably,
getting
more
caught
common
is
than we
probably
think. Yeah. So, well, thanks again for coming on, and
course.
we'll catch everyone next week. See ya. All right, my friends, thanks for listening, and be sure to listen to new episodes on your preferred platform. Stay up to date with my podcast by going to my Instagram or Facebook accounts at The Baked Dane Podcast. Interested in being a guest? Just go to my link tree, tap on Be a Guest, and fill out the form. All right, catch you next week.